Hello students, today I am going to continue the lesson Unit 22 World of Microbes. The topic is fungi. Since we are looking for the microorganisms, today we are going to see about the fungi and prions. So let me tell you about fungi. What is fungi? Literally, it is a microorganism. So they are eukaryotic organisms which include microorganisms such as yeast, molds and mushrooms. So these organisms are classified under the kingdom called fungi. So the organism found in fungi contain a cell wall. They are classified as heterotrophs among the living organisms. So fungi, they lack chlorophyll, hence depend on living or other dead host for their nutritional needs. They cannot prepare their own food. So fungi, which is living on living host, are called parasites. So the fungi which is depending on the living host are called parasites, and those living on dead organic matter, the fungi which is living on dead organic matter, are called saprophytes. So the body of the fungus is called thallus. Thallus is nothing but it is a green shoot. Okay, I'd like to tell you a few types. So the appearance of black spots on bread which is left outside for some days, the mushrooms and the yeast cells which are commonly used for the production of beer and bread are also fungi. They are also found in most of the skin infections and other fungal diseases. If we observe carefully, all the examples that we cited involve moist conditions. Thus, we can say that fungi usually grow in places which are moist and warm enough to support them. So let us have a detailed overview of the structure, classification and characteristics of fungi. So the single-celled yeast which ranges from 1 to 5 micrometer in width, because it is a microorganism, so it is measured in the micrometer. So yeast are spherical in shape. So the flagella are absent and hence they are non-motile. In the case of multicellular forms, the thallus is called as mycelium. The single green shoot is called thallus. The group of thallus which is for multicellular is called as mycelium. So mycelium is a complex of several thin filaments that is called hyphae. For a single cell, it is called hypha. So almost all the fungi have a filamentous structure except the yeast cells. They can be either single-celled or multicellular organisms. So the fungi consist of a long thread-like structure which is known as hyphae for a singular hypha. These hyphae together form a mesh-like structure, and that is called mycelium. Fungi possesses a cell wall which is made up of a chitin which is called as cellulose and the polysaccharides, the many sugar molecules. The cell wall comprises protoplasm which is differentiated into other parts such as cell membrane, cytoplasm, cell organelles and the nuclei. So here each hypha is 5 to 10 micrometer wide. Apart from the yeast, the hypha is around 5 to 10 micrometer wide. They are tube-like structure which is filled with protoplasm and cell organelles, other cell organelles. So the food material which is stored in the form of glycogen or oil globules, which is required for their energy. So they reproduce vegetatively. They may be reproduced by binary fission, budding method and fragmentation. Since it is a plant, also they can reproduce asexually as well as sexually. So they reproduce asexually through the spore formation, that is called conidia, and they reproduce sexually, that is the male and female gametangium are called antheridium and oogonium. Let me tell you the characteristics of fungi. So they may be unicellular or filamentous. They reproduce by means of spores. Fungi exhibit the phenomenon of alteration of generation. They lack chlorophyll and hence cannot perform photosynthesis. So fungi store their food in the form of starch. Biosynthesis of chitin occurs in fungi. The nuclei of the fungi are very small. The fungi have no embryonic stages, they develop from the spores. The mode of reproduction is sexual or asexual. Some fungi are parasitic and can infect the host. Fungi produce a chemical called pheromone which leads to sexual reproduction in fungi. Examples includes mushroom, molds and yeast. So the classification of fungi. So based on the mode of nutrition, the fungi can be classified as zygomycetes, ascomycetes, basidiomycetes and deuteromycetes. So zygomycetes, they are formed by the fusion of two different cells. The sexual spores are known as zygospores, while the asexual spores are known as sporangiospores. So ascomycetes, they are also called as sac fungi. They can be decomposer, parasitic or saprophytic. The sexual spores are called as ascospores. Example, Saccharomyces. Basidiomycetes. Mushrooms are the most commonly found basidiomycetes and mostly live as parasites. Sexual reproduction occurs by basidiospores. Asexual reproduction occurs by conidia, budding or fragmentation. Example, agaricus. So the deuteromycetes, they are otherwise called imperfect fungi, as they do not follow the regular reproduction cycle as the other fungi. They do not reproduce sexually. Asexual reproduction occurs by conidia. So the uses of fungi. So fungi are one of the most important groups of organisms on the planet, as it plays a vital role in the biosphere and has great economic importance on account of their both benefits and harmful effects. So the recycling. They play a major role in recycling the dead and decayed matter. Mushroom species are edible, which are cultured and used for food by humans. There are many fungi which are used to produce antibiotics to control diseases in humans and animals. Penicillin antibiotic is derived from a common fungi, Mycelium. Fungi are involved in exploiting insects, other small worms, and help in controlling pests. Spores of fungi are used as spray on crops. Fungi play a major role in recycling organic material and are also responsible for major spoilage and economic losses of stored food. So the major examples of fungi are yeast, mushrooms, molds and truffles. They are also a substantial source of vitamin C, that is citric acid. They are involved in the production of antibiotics such as penicillin. So fungi are used for food fermentation, including cheese and breads. So they are also used for the brewing alcoholic beverages. Then prions. So the term prion means proteinaceous infectious particles. So the term prion was coined by Stanley B prisoner in 1982. So the prions are viral particles which contain only proteins. They do not contain any nucleic acids like RNA or DNA. They are infectious and smaller than viruses. So the prions are found in the neurons and they are rod shaped. So prions induce changes in normal protein. This results in the degeneration of nervous tissues, that is the destroying of nervous tissues. So it is responsible for several neurodegenerative diseases in mammals like Jacob disease. This happens due to the abnormal folding of proteins in the brain. It refers to the hypothesis that the infectious agents causing the disease contain only protein. It explained why the infectious agents are resistant to ultraviolet radiation. They can break down the nucleic acid but are receptive to substances that denature proteins. So the prions are found all over the body, but the ones that causes disease are structurally different. Few of them are even resistant to proteases. So the prions are quite rare and difficult to transmit, but they are progressive neurodegenerative disease with no cure or treatment. These diseases develop gradually. These proteins affect many other animals in addition to humans, for example, sheep, cow disease, and the chronic wasting disease in deer. Examples. Prions can spread in a person's brain for years without any symptoms. The prions start killing neurons and the symptoms strike the brain in no time. Soon the person's health started declining. All the prion diseases are fatal. Some last a few months and some might last for years. A few experimental pieces of evidence show that the prions are not ordinary infectious material. It is believed to be a self-replicating protein. So what are the risk factors involved in prions? People with genetic history related to prion disease are at a risk of prion disease. Eating meat infected by increasing the risk of prion disease. Then the contaminated medical equipment or contaminated corneas can cause prion disease. So the main cause of prion disease is the abnormal folding and clumping of prions in the brain, causing brain damage. This leads to memory impairment, changes in the personality, difficulties in moving. Prions are by far the most dangerous infection caused by the agents already present within the body and are usually fatal. However, a lot has not been discovered about the prion disease. So the symptoms of prions. So the developing dementia, hallucinations, fatigue, then stiffening of muscles, confusions and difficulty in speakings. Thank you, students.